Welcome everyone. The other day I posted this on my blog for a color challenge with my inky. When this color challenge came, I thought, oh, those aren't my colors, those aren't my wheelhouse really. Turns out they're totally my colors and in my wheelhouse. But I originally saw this technique done by an Australian demonstrator, and she said it was an old technique. And I remember one way back about that dealt with this extra thick embossing powder, but I don't remember this exactly. So what I did is I took this, one of our really thick dynamic impression pads with the flower, and then I colored it with markers and then blend abilities, and then you do a whole bunch of other stuff to it, ending with embossing, and then I made this card. And so it might be my favorite card I've made all summer. Here's another version. This one I used, I was experimenting, and so I used watercolor paper on this one, and on this one I used thick Whisper White, and you can see that it's pretty much the same, but it's also very different looking. It's pretty amazing. This one, these yellow spots are actually from my Versamark pad. It had a stain that I didn't think would affect it, and it totally did. So that was no good. Except for I kind of like it in the end, so I'm okay with it. The other detail I had is I tied the rope, I tied a knot, and then just put the ends underneath. And then I thought, I'm going to make a little chain of sparkles. Like they came on one of those chains. I thought it was kind of a good balance. We'll see. And then I also tried it on, because she said that any really flat, like she was using a leafy one I didn't own. And so I tried these flat shapes. It didn't turn out looking like a plate, because what plate design looks like that. However, I kind of like it. It's cool. It's got a little kick to it, a little fun. It's good colors. It's a good thank you note for me as a teacher to send out. So I like that one too. But my absolute favorite ones are these. And I'm quite proud of these. Check this out. Oh, thank you, Charlene. Charlene wrote she loved these cards, and thanks, I appreciate it. These, I'm so proud of these. I want to squeal. So this one is the, I have two of them. And if you look, this one the trees kind of have a green color, but they look like birch trees, which I find amazing that you can add blues and greens to things and it makes it look like the real thing that is white. Art is amazing. So this one I just made Be Strong, Be Happy, Be You, and You Are Wonderful. And I am in love with these two cards. They are going in a frame. Okay. But I'm going to show you how to make this one using that technique that she used, because I just love it. So we'll see what happens. Here, let's get started. So what I started with is I took the trees embossing folder and I embossed on, I thought it was watercolor paper. It is. It's watercolor paper, but when you emboss watercolor paper, it becomes very dense, which I like because with all the steps you have to do, it doesn't ever get too flimsy and too terrible. If you look at this one, it's cool. I'm actually loving it, but it got really flat as I sanded, and this was the thick Whisper White. And so the watercolor paper, it keeps its dimension a little bit better, I think. So that's why I went with that. And I have two just in case I mess up. So then what I did is I took my blends, and the Stampin' Blends with the new catalog have had some great new colors. Like here's a Pineapple Punch. I probably won't use this one because it's a little bright, but it add yellow. I'm missing one. Oh, here's my favorite. So this is the Soft Seafoam, and it's the light version. Old Olive, I think, was an old color. Oh yeah, you can tell by the packaging. Soft Suede now. This is the bronze that was original. I brought in a little bit of this one for ivory for a little extra tinting. Here's the other Soft Suede. And if you look, the colors look the same, but this is a crumb cake. Wait, this is Soft Suede, this is bronze. Oh, it gets confusing. This one is Dark Smoky Slate, so it's an old one, which is, you can still buy. They're not old, like gone. And Dark Crumb Cake. And here's probably Light Crumb Cake, I hope. And then I got a little dark Granny Apple Green here, and I also grabbed a Light Pool Party. And so I have this assortment of blends because I found my technique for making these trees had to be a little weird, wonky, I don't know, artistic. I also found I liked using the smaller end for this. I have to turn my paper to right, I'm sorry, it's just how I work. But first what I did is I took a darker color and I kind of made those lines on the birch tree. You know how there's always those dark spots. And all I did was kind of think, where do I want them? And that, there's no rhyme or reason. I'm telling you, it'll look good. I can futz and futz and futz and it'll just look good no matter what in the end. I promise. Alright, so then I did those, and then I know that next to those often is a little bit of a gray. So I'm gonna, well, that's a little dark. So I don't really like that gray as much. Doesn't matter, it'll go away. You'll see. So maybe I want this gray. And so there's parts that have like a more gray tinge with the light. I don't really know how. I'm just going with the flow. I'm not looking at a picture. I'm just picturing my favorite woods with the birch. And coloring. And I'm trying to color only on the top part of the impression. So this part might get a little boring for you. But so now I have some gray on there. And I need a little more brown, lighter brown. So I'm going to get the... Oh, I haven't tried light slash so let's see what that does. Yeah, it gives you a different shade. And the branches of a birch tree, I don't know how many people spend as much time in the woods as I have, but they're actually a dark color often. And they kind of go into the tree a little, so that's why I did that. Alright, so that's kind of good. And now I'm just going to move on because I want to move on to the next step. And what I did to, see I have the two cards, right? The two cards, and the green one I'm loving more than this one because these changed them into a different kind of tree. But these look more like birch trees. These look more like popple. If you grew up in Wisconsin, you'd know. Okay, so, well, if you grew up in my family. And I actually colored these green. And if you look at it, how wonky. Like, that's a green tree, Matson. I don't know what you're thinking. Oops, I just colored the inside. Depth perception. But you'll see, it actually works. That's amazing to me. Okay, so there I'm colored. That's step one. Use blends, or first step one I guess is emboss. Step two is use blends, color the top of the image, the poofed up part, the embossed part. Then step three, sorry I'm going to make a mess. I have to move these out of my way. Step three is applying gesso. Okay, so gesso is a surface preparation apparently for people who do real art. And I could have used white acrylic paint, and she recommended gesso versus white acrylic paint, and so I got gesso because I followed directions. And the woman I showed you, and I'll have a link to her in my blog, I just can't think of her name, Deb something. She used like a card to do this, but we have this tool and this tool, and we have this tool worked better for me, just so you know. And sometimes it didn't work well at all. But what you do is you cover the image in this gesso. And you try to scrape it off the top, like, hey Kim. So you try to scrape it, strain, okay. So I have to focus. You try to scrape it, okay, I'm covering it first, it just worked better. Alright, so you cover the darn thing. And I found more is better. It might just be my patience level, but the end look looks better. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's hard to not have my nose right over the top of this is why I keep saying oh my gosh, because I really like to get in there. Okay, you want to scrape the top part, which works a lot better with my towel, which I don't have. Okay, so I'm scraping it off that top layer. I think I've said that like 7 times, but it's a little tricky because they don't always want to scrape these trees. But you don't want to do much with the inside, the in-between part. You want it covered a little, but you don't really want to scrape a ton off unless there's a lot of excess. And I'm also using the packaging, just like the woman in the video did. It's a packaging from copper foil sheets. I left the paper in there, and it's movable, so I can get rid of this gooey part of my area, which is always good for messy me. But it's all good. There we go. And I see a little too much extra in the thing, so all right. Oh, none in there. This poor stick. Someone must have blocked me from getting anything in between. Okay, so you cover it in this. You scrape, scrape, scrape. You don't want to use something that pushes too hard down because you lose your embossedness. But a little, you know, the idea is to get the color showing. And it already, see, it dilutes that green even more. So they just look like trees, right? So this has to dry. So the only way I know to make this dry well is to use my heat tool. So I'm going to get that out and I think that's good. It's kind of hard to tell for sure. But I was getting these weird bubbles under the, like it was heating it up and putting air in there. That's why I'm squishing it, because it looks funny. Okay, so now what you have to do is take a little sandpaper, and you can get off the rest of the, you can kind of sand the top, and get just lightly, and it kind of gets rid of some more of it off the top. I have not found this to be, it works, but I don't think it's the most successful part of it. When she did it, like, it just totally got rid of it. When I'm doing it, it doesn't. It could be my sandpaper block is really old. Then the next step is to emboss it in clear. So I'm going to, oh man, okay. I didn't bring my board out, but I'm just gonna rub it on, just how I am. See on my pad, it's a brand new pad. I've been doing a lot of stuff with it. I just try to rub it on it, like that. Cover the whole thing. I don't care if my fingerprints are in it, you aren't gonna see those later. And then, so now it's clear embossed, it will be when I'm done. Alright, got that. It's a very scientific way of covering every inch of your cardstock, so you cover it. It all has it on there, the embossing powder. So then you do that. Alrighty. Then I have to heat emboss it. And this is where it really gets cool, because you get to watch it become something cool. See how amazingly shiny that is? It is so amazing. So now it literally looks to me like it's a real tile, and it isn't. It's not a tile at all. The last step is to take a little bit, I forgot to take it out. Oh, take a little bit of like Sahara sand, so this is really Sahara sand in here, and do a little watercolor wash. This has Sahara sand from the other day, so I just have to add water. And I'm going to get my Sahara sand. Isn't that awesome? And you just kind of wash it over the top. And if there's any part that you didn't, wow, this one's not doing it. Sometimes when you do it, there's some paper left that isn't covered. I guess I did a good job this time. But you got a little there, and then I wipe it off with my thing here. Wow, this one is so covered it doesn't even matter. But If I would have let some more dry on there, it would have kind of toned it down just a little. It creeps in little holes. It can dry on there. And so then I have this background for this card. The last thing I did is I cut it two little strips actually. It's not even across the whole thing. 2 strips of the wood textures for each side just to try to give it a different kind of matte. This is stamped right on Wood Textures Designer Series paper, and I used from the Nature's Poem Set Suite. So it's those, and I added a few little, I love those little sequins, they're just fun to play with. And then this is my other one with the same folder, a little darker looking because I used darker colors on the bottom. And it, again, it's the same label but a different piece of paper, and I stamped right on the paper, which I like. Be strong, be happy, be you. This time I use a stamped image. I put wide variety of metallic adhesive back sequins just for fun. And so that's what I have to show you today. I just really love this technique. It produces just these amazing, I mean, I did that. So thank you, Stampin' Up. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in and I will answer as many as I can. And I hope you're inspired to do some mixed media. Bye.